So Naruto Storm Connections finally dropped a balance patch, and there's quite a few changes that happened with this balance patch. So today I'm going to be going over it and showing you all the things that got buffed, got nerfed, some additional things, and all types of stuff. So getting right into it without wasting y'all guys' time, the first thing is fix an issue where recovery speed at the substitution gauge recovers differ depending on the frame rate. This has a result of faster recovery speed in 30 frames. Basically, just adjust it so the substitution is not like different from what it would have been in 30 versus 60, and so that's basically mainly towards PS4 players and also PS5 players that fight PS4 players and stuff like that. Fix the bug with the following characters were invincible to chakra backdash. It's basically every Boruto. For some reason, every Boruto in the game was invincible when they did chakra backdash. Now they changed it so that's no longer the case. Going over some battle adjustments. The timing of granting priority has been slowed down for all types of direct attack ninjutsu. Priority is the indicator that determines which of the two attacks wins when they collide with each other. Basically what this means, some jutsus have higher priority than others when it comes to the melee versions of the jutsus. For example, Rennie Sasuke, I believe, has the highest priority in the game, right? So if I were to do this, Sasuke wins this every time. Everybody should know this. This is a thing. This is not a bug, this was a feature, basically, right? And this is an intended thing for it to happen, so Sasuke is intentionally supposed to win those situations. Priority attack decisions are now made when leader change hits, and leader change attacks are made during aerial combos. I don't 100% know what this fully means. I'm assuming it's like when you are switching, right? I believe this is just indicating that priority moves are trying to decide what to do when your main person switches to another character. I don't fully know what this means. Comment down below what that means. I don't fully know. Going on to the next thing, increase recovery speed of support gauge after leader change. Basically what this means is if I were to switch with Killer Bee or Yugito, the support gauge is faster. This is the closest thing we're gonna get to Storm 4 in terms of how often you can switch. As you can see, they buffed it and it's significantly faster, but we're not even done with this leader changing thing yet. Next thing is adjust the recovery speed of support gauge after activating support ninjutsu. We'll get into some examples of what this means. Basically, some ninjutsus as supports got buffed and also they got nerfed. That's like the short end of the stick of it. Is increased recovery speed of support gauge during two-man teams. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison, so pay attention to both when I switch into Shino and when I switch into one of the characters from Yugito's team, right? Look how fast I can switch when there's a two-man team versus a three-man team. I'm already switching. I'm switching way more often than I can switch between Yugito and Killer Bee. It's kind of crazy. So two-man teams might be going crazy now. You can kind of abuse this with certain teams. The next thing is adjust the leader change function so it cannot be done while holding counter attack. I mean, the short end of it is you can't switch when you're doing counter attack, right? This is only apparent for like in Storm 4. This was more commonly used in Storm 4 is you can counter then switch and then you can counter immediately again. So you basically get a double counter. You can no longer do that for all my Storm 4 players and all that jazz. So if you haven't been doing this already, it doesn't matter, but for like meta game players that likes using it, you can no longer do that. So decrease the natural recovery speed of chakra gauge during ninja move and jump. I'm going to burn some chakra real quick. Just burn some chakra. As you can see, this is the normal chakra gauge. Without me doing anything, this is the normal chakra gauge. Now if I move and jump, look how slow this is. Basically, you're not getting chakra by moving. Like, by moving, you're not doing anything. Well, obviously, if you move normally, yes. But if you're, like, sidestepping, jumping, and stuff like that, you're barely going to get anything. So, increase the natural recovery speed of chakra gauge during attacks. So, we're going to burn some more chakra. Unfortunately, my PS4 version of the game updated, so I can't do a side-by-side comparison. But, basically, this is not that different. I don't really think it's by much. So it's not that serious, but and you know the difference. If you can feel the difference, you can feel the difference. Extended the knockout length when the guard break hits. I mean, long story short of it, it is longer, but I really think it's only by like 0.5 seconds. Like 0.5 seconds or 0.25 seconds. Like it is longer because the animation goes on a tad bit longer, but you're not ulting this still. You just have a little bit more time to goof around. Like you could probably do a troll spin and then do something. I don't know. I'm not sure about the troll spin, but hey. Next thing, decrease the poison effect of ninja tool poison damage. Now, I could actually talk about this because I know how much damage poison does, right? Poison normally does 10.80, I believe. 10.80 or 10.60 damage, right? Now, with the nerf, it will now do only 6 damage, right? It will now do only 6. So they cut this by a little bit more. Actually, is it by half or is it a little bit more than half? Regardless, they cut it by a lot. So poison is not going to be nearly as dominant. Poison is still good. Don't get it twisted. It's still good, but it's not nearly as good. And that's all the system changes, overall battle changes and stuff like that. Now we're gonna get onto some of the characters. Going over the first character, which is Tell Beast Bomb Naruto. Lower the degree to which the main body turns around during the attack of the second ninjutsu Shadow Clone Charging Bullet. Basically, it's just a tracking nerf and an overall like body nerf. For example, I'm going to switch real quick and I'm going to do jujutsu and I'm going to move around. Do this, right? So as you can see, it's way easier to dodge. That tracking is not going to track you. Next character is my guy. The only change he's gotten is he is a lot weaker. He takes more damage. I don't know by how much damage because, as I said, I don't know the previous patch. And unfortunately, I don't have access to it anymore. But basically, for the characters that have decreased defense and stuff, I will only talk about them. I won't really show an example. As for Neji, decrease the recovery speed after activating ninjutsu 1. Basically what this means is his support gauge is way slower compared to your normal gauges. Well, not way slow, it's only by like a little bit. The general gist of it is you're going to be seeing this less often on support, but not by much. Moving on to Kiba, defense reduction as well. He takes more damage. Also increased chakra consumption when using Fang over Fang and reduces Akamaru's damage and guard damage, right? So basically it's a guard damage nerf and a regular damage nerf. For example, we do Fang over Fang. I don't really know the difference, but you can definitely tell it's less because he's still at green, right? And the damage that it does now is 421. Oh my god, they actually nerfed this to the ground. I didn't fully test the Kiba out of all the characters. I didn't really test them that much. Same thing with the second one. It's basically the same changes. Reduce Akamaru's damage and guard damage as well, right? It does the exact... Wait, wow. Wait, they kind of gutted my mans. I'm not gonna lie. They really gutted my mans. Oh my. Next character we got is Hinata Hyuga. Decrease the recovery speed of which activating 8 trigrams, 64 palms as a support, well, protective. Same thing with the support thing. It's just gonna take longer, so we'll do an example. I'm gonna call these two at the same time so you'll get the difference. They'll even if hers and finishes like first, you'll still see the difference because of how long it takes for it to be finished. As that's going, increase chakra consumption with activating her second jutsu, which is Air Palm, and decrease the recovery speed after activating the support. Same thing with the support, but before I do that, we're going to do Air Palm, which now takes a bit more chakra, as you can see on top of the screen. And when you call it as a support, it does the same thing as well. Okay, there we go. All right, next up we got Hiruzen, or the third Hokage. Weaken the homing of the shuriken of his second ninjutsu. Basically, it's the one who does a bunch of shurikens. You can easily dodge this now. The tracking on it is nowhere near as good as it was prior. And yeah, basically, that's the main thing. Also, they nerf the support version of it as well, so it takes longer to come back, as you see on the side. It doesn't mention it, but you can clearly see it as I'm talking as well. And now we're gonna move on to the next set of characters that got changes. Next up, we got Minato Namikaze Reanimation. Accelerated the time at which the invincibility expires and reduced the hitbox of the second jutsu, which is Flying Raijin level 2, right? So for example, when he does this, you can hit them way faster. He's still invincible, I think, at the very beginning of it, but you can like hit him as you can see on the screen right there. Also the hitbox is reduced as well, which it's kind of really hard to do it without a side-by-side comparison, but I think normally it would hit like here, like just slightly back, but yeah, overall just nerf the hitbox and you can attack sooner after he does that move. Next up we got Danzo, which they also got a defense nerf as well, so he takes more damage, and they reduce the damage of his first ninjutsu, which is Vacuum Blast Barrage, which now it does 15, 56 depending on the opponent. I think it did 14 on another person, but basically overall it does less damage. It's kind of hard to like kind of judge it because defense values between characters and stuff, but yeah, that's kind of like the main changes of this character. Sasuke the Last, showing the duration of the hitbox of Almighty Push. So if I were to do this, as you can see, I could walk in this really soon. Obviously not immediately, but basically as soon as he says push, you could pretty much walk in it, right? As soon as he finished the word push, you can just walk in it, right? And also reduces the damage when activated in the air. So as you saw, it did like 12 damage to Minato, and when you do in the air, it does 7.78. So it's a big decrease. So it makes air defensive jutsus not as good, and the recovery time of when you do Almighty Push has also been increased as well. As you can see, because you see is going slow as heck compared to like the jutsus that are considered more normal and stuff like that. All right, so moving on to the other Minato. Now for Minato when he was alive, increase the chakra consumption of Rasengan and decrease the recovery time when it's used as a support. So this takes that much chakra now. Well, obviously I'm gonna cancel it. So this takes this much chakra now. And I think they just like increase it by a little bit, not that much. And when you use it as a support, it also and when you use Minato as a support, it takes a little longer for it to like recover or whatever. It's not as crazy as Sasuke the Last or anything like that, but it's a little bit of a difference. It's nothing too crazy. This is for both versions of Part 1 Hinabi and Shippuden Hinabi. Increase chakra consumption when activating and canceling Hinabi style rotation, and also decrease the recovery speed when activated as a support. So you can, first of all, you can't cancel this until she gets on the ground, but even then it still doesn't really take that much chakra to do. So if it is a nerf, I don't notice it, if I'm gonna be honest. And when you use Hinabi as a support, they did nerf it. It's not as crazy as Sasuke the Last or every other Almighty Push user that we're gonna get to, but hey, it's definitely less, and the chakra consumption is barely noticeable, if I'm gonna be honest. Snake Cape Kabuto, reduce the poison effect of the ninjutsu Venomous Fog Jutsu. So right, I don't know how much damage this did before. I just know it did quite a bit of damage, but now as we let this rust, it doesn't last as long, and it does about, I want to say about 15 to 20% of your health bar, I think, right? And this is kind of like the common trend when it comes to adjusted poison moves, with like one exception, I think. So, all right, for Sakon, increase the chakra consumption when activating Rashon, which is basically the wall. You can only do 3 of these now. I think you used to be able to do 4, potentially 5, but hey, it's a cool little change. Nothing crazy. Just a little bit of nerf, but it doesn't really matter. 1, I don't really see people play this character. 2, this is still a good jutsu overall to kind of just block things out. Oniki, increase the chakra consumption when activating weighted boulder jutsu. I'm gonna be honest, I barely notice it. I don't really notice it like that. This looks like this is what it should cost normally. So if it costs less than this, I don't know how they let that slide, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, you can still spam like 4 of these. Han, accelerated the tempo for ground combos and increased the stun duration when getting hit. I guess they just potentially gave this man another infinite or something. They speed up his combos, I can definitely tell that, but I guess they either increased the stun on some of his stuff or whatever they meant by the stun thing, right? Overall, faster combos and more stun behind them. All right, for Yutaka, or however you pronounce this 6-toe Jinchuriki, decrease the recovery speed of Ninjutsu 1, which is his bubble drift jutsu. Basically, it has a longer duration for it to get your support back. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's not even that crazy of a jutsu. But even then, it's not that long. It's still pretty fast, kinda, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. And as for his second jutsu, they increased the recovery speed of water bubble jutsu, which, I mean, okay, right? It's whatever. I mean, it's faster, but I don't really notice it like that. It honestly just looks like a normal jutsu speed, recovery speed for supports, if I'm gonna be honest. Moving on to Hanzo. Reduce the damage and poison effect of his second jutsu. Alright. So it's gonna do about the same as the Kabuto one in terms of the poison, like 15 to 20%. Nothing crazy. Also, this is the case in Awakening as well, if I grab the right controller. When he does his special action, it's the same thing. It actually is gonna do a little bit more damage because the initial damage does more than his second jutsu, but I think the poison is about the same amount of time. As for Ashura, decrease the recovery speed of Ninjutsu 1 Hurricane Twist when activated as a support. This is a nerf. It's actually a very noticeable difference. You're not really gonna, I mean, it's not that crazy compared to like Sasuke the Last, but it's still noticeable enough. Like, you're not recovering this that fast, realistically. If I were to do Hanzo's jutsu and Ashura dishes, like, you can see the difference a little bit. It's nothing too crazy. I feel like if anything, it's slightly catching up in a way, but hey, it is what it is on that one. And as for his second jutsu, with the Rasengan Barrage, I'm gonna call it, increase the chakra consumption when activating it and decrease the recovery when activated as a second jutsu. So it now costs about this much chakra. Realistically, you're getting 3 of these off if you were to spam it, and if you were to call it as a support, the cooldown on the support is way longer than the defensive jutsu, which makes sense when it comes to Ashura because that jutsu is crazy. So you're only gonna see this once every, I don't know how long it is. I might have a timer or something on how long this takes, but it does take a long time as I'm still having this conversation. So it's a pretty good nerf overall. Very dominant in terms of support, and now he's not as crazy. Going over Obito Uchiha, increased chakra consumption when using Fire Style Bomb Blast Dance, and reduce the damage when it's used in the air, and decrease the recovery speed when they activate support. So, it does less damage in the air, because I just see it does 8 right here, and it does 12 right here, and it takes more chakra as well. And when you call it as a support, it will take a bit longer for it to come back, as you can see on the screen right there, right? So moving on to Pain and Nagato real quick, because they're basically the same character. Shorten the duration of the hitbox of Mighty Push and reduce damage when activated in the air. I'm going to tell you this right now, they do the exact same damage, right? So this does 13, and this does 10. I mean, actually, oh no, it does 9 to Sasori specifically. And the shortened duration is the same thing as Sasuke the Last. You can walk in this way sooner. Oh, and also for those, you can now stay in it, right? It no longer hits twice. It only hits once. So that's a huge change. And also showing the duration hitbox for Awakened Ninjutsu Almighty Push as well, which is basically the same thing. Yeah, the only difference is this Almighty Push is way bigger, right? And if I put it on the screen, then I'll do it for Nagato as well. So for Masked Man, delayed the timing of becoming invincible for Ninjutsu 1, heavily in Earth Explosion Barrier. So basically, you can attack it pretty quickly, right? Obviously, if I do it that late, it's gonna be invincible. But if I were to attack it early, he's not immediately invincible. So it's not really a crazy change. It is a change, but it's not that crazy because a lot of the time when people are going to use it, they're probably going to be far enough away to the point that you're not going to hit them. Obito but Berserk, delay the timing of becoming invincible, I guess, on startup, and accelerate the timing when the invincibility expires. So, same thing, right? It takes a little bit for it to activate, and it's kind of weird to test this, like when there's just only one of me. Let me see if I can get this real quick. I guess what it means either when it just runs out in general or when you punch. Basically, it's just less time for you to be invisible overall. It's kind of hard to test it, especially when I don't have the beforehand. Alright, next up we got Sorcery. Reduce the poison effect of ninjutsu Poison Smoke, which is basically the same thing as I mentioned all the other times. It's basically about the same as the other ones that I showed off already. Next up we got Shino. Increase chakra consumption when activating and canceling his first jutsu, right? So it takes this much chakra now, which, you know, it's a difference, but I don't think it's a big enough difference. But on the plus side, when you use it as a support, it takes longer for it to come back, right? It still has armor, but it does take longer for it to come back, which is always a nice thing, right? For part 1, Tamari lowered the degree at which the main body turns around during the attack of her first ninjutsu and decreased the recovery speed when it's used as a support. We're gonna kill two birds with one stone real quick. Basically, it's the body's gonna turn less and stuff like that, and I guess that also makes it so that the tracking is not as good, and the recovery time of this jutsu is insane. Like, look at this. I kind of wish this was Shino, like part 1 Shino. I kind of wished, but it isn't, so it is what it is on that front. All right, for part 1 Guard, decreased recovery speed of both jutsus when activated as a support. So I'm gonna just show y'all the differences real quick. Next up, we got Scientific Ninja to Boruto, which is just a defense decrease, nothing that serious. He just takes more overall damage. Sarada Uchiha got nerfed, but not in the way that you would expect, if I'm gonna be honest. She did get a defense nerf, so she takes more damage, so that's a plus, right? So you can probably kill her quicker and stuff like that. But the weird thing is, her IC2, which is her second hit or her combo, it didn't get nerfed like the Mizukage, but it's slower, right? It's way slower, as you can see. You can literally see it coming. Like, even if you have slow reaction time, you can see it, right? She still can be annoying, but she won't be nearly as annoying. I mean, let me know how y'all feel about this change. I'm a Sarada main, so I don't want to comment on how I feel about this change, if I'm gonna be honest. So let me know in the comments how you feel about this change. Next up, we got Mizuki. In Awakening, his ground combo is only invincible at the start. Basically, what this means is the very first hit of his combo, it's invincible. Why? Just cause. Like, I really don't have a good reason, aside from like just cause, right? This move is invincible on the first hit. It's gonna be kind of hard to like properly showcase. I mean, that's the closest that you're gonna get. You're not winning this exchange, basically, right? And if I were to try to do the second hit, which, give me a second while I try to do that. As you can see right here, it got the second hit and allows you to punish it instead of him being invincible all the time. So overall, pretty solid change. Don't know why it's invincible on the first hit, but it is what it is. Next up, we got Baryon mode. Adjusted so Massive Rasengan basically can't follow itself up. I think, to my understanding of what this means. You cannot like follow this up twice and just spam it, and that's pretty much the only change you got. And last but not least on this list, we got Jigen. Made it so that his jutsu now takes more chakra, so he only gets 2 charges. Overall, it's a very interesting change, a very interesting nerf. It's kind of fun because I made a video about Jigen being pretty crazy, but now they nerf his jutsu to the ground. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.